Hi, I'm Greg Hunter, and this is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, March 16th, 2012. Israel, Iran, once again at the top of the news. First off, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel basically said that his country doesn't need the United States' permission to attack Iran. Meanwhile, the United States has reportedly threatened Iran with a last chance, quote unquote, last chance to peacefully settle the dispute with its nuclear program. Now, Russia Today, RT News, has reported this and basically said the threat or ultimatum was given by Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, through Russian diplomats to Iran. Now, they say they're going to attack by the end of the year, but of course, it'll probably be after the November elections. But what's Iran going to do? Are they going to knuckle under and negotiate on their nuclear program that they say is for the peaceful production of energy? Are they just going to sit there and be attacked? Or might they strike first? They have stated so publicly. We are not inching closer to peace. We are inching closer to war. Meanwhile, fuel prices are high, and they are expected to go higher. Many analysts, including one at Edmunds.com, says we will easily hit a $4 national average. We're approaching that right now. And also, right at this minute, gasoline is approaching or exceeding $5 a gallon on the East and West Coast. Now, many of these analysts say we're going to hit $5 a gallon for a national average. And what does that mean? $6, $6.50 a gallon on the East and West Coast? Boy, if that won't destroy this recovery that the mainstream media keeps telling us we are in, I don't know what will. But yes, high gas prices will soak the little guy, that's for sure. Watch out. The GOP presidential primaries are in full swing. It is starting to look like Santorum and Romney are fighting it out at the top, and Gingrich and Paul are running near the end of the pack. Now, some Republicans want Gingrich to step aside. He's not doing that so far. Also, the mainstream media has all but stopped covering Dr. Ron Paul. I find that strange. You know, in a recent poll by Rasmussen, that Paul and Romney were the only two in the poll that could defeat Barack Obama in the fall of 2012. This is a recent poll. And they also stated in the poll that Ron Paul has special caveat. Now, listen, Santorum and Romney and Gingrich, they're not getting Democratic voters, period, the end. They're not. They'll get some independents, and they'll get Republicans and conservatives. They're not getting Democratic voters. But Ron Paul, according to this poll, will get 15% of liberal Democratic voters if he ran. So you know Paul will get Republicans because they're not going to vote for Obama. And he'll get a big slice of the 40% of independent voters, which is the biggest bloc, and 15% liberal Democrats. Now, I don't think Ron Paul is going to get the GOP nomination. I don't. I just don't. But that doesn't mean that he won't run third party. And I find it hard to believe, and Paul says he's not going to run a third party. That's what he says. He's not going to run a third party. But I find it hard to believe a man of his stamina and stature is going to just, well, I didn't get the presidential nomination again. Well, I'm just going to go home to Texas. I don't think so. I think it's now or never. In my humble opinion, I think Paul is going to strongly look at a third party run after the GOP convention. Next up, credit default swaps. We finally have yet another Greek debt deal. Apparently, 95% of bondholders agreed to take nearly a 75% haircut. Yes, a loss. Now, a lot of these bondholders bought something called a credit default swap. And the long and short of it is a CDS, or a credit default swap, is like insurance. So they lost 75%. So they go to the institutions, which are big banks that wrote the contracts, the CDS contracts, and say, hey, I lost 75%. I took out insurance. You need to pay me. Now, it's been reported that there are between 32 and 37 trillion dollars in these contracts, and that the CDS market is 50 trillion globally. And do you know what the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, did, who's been in the derivatives contract for years and years? They decided, and they told the CFTC that, we don't want to be a clearinghouse for credit default swaps derivatives anymore. We don't want to be a clearinghouse in Europe, just Europe. We don't want to do that in Europe anymore. I don't think they don't want to be a clearinghouse for derivatives in Europe because they think they're going to make too much money in commissions. And I personally think that the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, cutting and running out of Europe is a very bad sign for the European debt crisis. I think it gets much worse before it gets any better. We shall see in the days and weeks ahead. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.